He served as personal secretary to the Deputy Führer, Rudolf Hess from July 1933 until Monday, May 12, 1941. Bormann and others took notes of Hitler's thoughts expressed over dinner and his monologues late into the night, and preserved them. This material was published after the war as Hitler's Table Talk. In 1927, Bormann joined the Nazi Party. His membership number was 60508. He joined the SS on January 1, 1937, with the number 278267. Adolf Hitler named him Reichsleiter of the Nazi Party, and in November he was named Reichstag deputy. By June 1934, Bormann was gaining acceptance into Hitler's inner circle and accompanied him everywhere, providing him with briefings and summaries of events. His studies at an agricultural trade high school were interrupted when he joined the 55th Field Artillery Regiment as a gunner in June 1918, in the last months of World War I. He never saw action, but served garrison duty until February 1919. In 1930, he set up the Hilfskasse der NSDAP, a benefits and relief fund directly administered by the party. Each party member was required to pay a premium and may receive compensation for injuries sustained while conducting party business. Payments from the fund were made entirely at Bormann's discretion. The office of the Deputy Führer had final approval over civil service appointments, and Bormann reviewed the personnel files and made the decisions regarding appointments. This responsibility overlapped with those of the Minister of the Interior Wilhelm Frick. He also traveled everywhere with Hitler, including trips to Austria in 1938 and to the Sudetenland after the signing of the Munich Agreement later that year. On March 17, 1924, he was sentenced to a year in Elisabethstrasse prison as an accomplice to his friend Rudolf Höss in the murder of a schoolteacher named Walter Cadot. The perpetrators believed Cadot had tipped off the French occupation authorities in the Ruhr district that Freikorps member Albert Leo Schlagiter was carrying out sabotage operations against French industries. Schlagiter was arrested and was executed on May 26, 1923. On the night of May 31, Höss, Bormann and several others took Cadot into a meadow out of town, where he was beaten and had his throat cut. Whenever Hitler was at the Berghof, Bormann was constantly in attendance and acted as Hitler's personal secretary. In this position, he began to control the flow of information and access to Hitler. During this period, Hitler gave Bormann control of his personal finances. In addition to salaries as Chancellor and President, Hitler's income included money raised through royalties collected on his book, Mein Kampf, and the use of his image on postage stamps. Bormann set up the Adolf Hitler Fund of German Trade and Industry, which collected money from German industrialists on Hitler's behalf. Some of the funds received through this program were dispersed to various party leaders, but he retained most of it for Hitler's personal use. Whenever Hitler was at the Berghof, Bormann was constantly in attendance and acted as Hitler's personal secretary. In this position, he began to control the flow of information and access to Hitler. During this period, Hitler gave Bormann control of his personal finances. In addition to salaries as Chancellor and President, Hitler's income included money raised through royalties collected on his book, Mein Kampf, and the use of his image on postage stamps. Bormann set up the Adolf Hitler Fund of German Trade and Industry, which collected money from German industrialists on Hitler's behalf. Some of the funds received through this program were dispersed to various party leaders, but he retained most of it for Hitler's personal use. In 1935, Bormann was appointed as overseer of renovations at the Berghof, Hitler's property at Obersalzburg. In the early 1930s, Hitler bought the property, which he had been renting since 1925 as a vacation retreat. After he became Chancellor, Hitler drew up plans for the expansion and remodeling of the main house and put Bormann in charge of construction. Bormann commissioned their construction of barracks for the SS guards, roads and footpaths, garages for cars, a guest house, accommodation for staff, and other amenities. He also bought up adjacent farms until the entire complex covered 3.9 square miles. Members of the inner circle had houses within the perimeter, like Hermann Göring, Albert Speer and Bormann himself. Bormann commissioned the building of the Eagle's Nest, as a gift to Hitler on his 50th birthday in April 1939. Hitler hardly used the tea house, but Bormann himself used to impress guests by taking them there. At around 11 p.m. on May 1, 1945, Bormann left the Führer bunker with SS Dr. Ludwig Stumpfegger, Hitler youth leader Arthur Axmann, and Hitler's pilot Hans Bauer as members of one of the groups attempting to break out of the Soviet encirclement. Bormann carried a copy of Hitler's last will and testament with him. The group left the Führer bunker and traveled on foot via a U-Bahn subway tunnel, to the Friedrichstrasse station, where they surfaced. Several members of the party attempted to cross the Spree River at the Weidendammer Bridge while crouching behind a Tiger tank. The tank was hit by an anti-tank round, and Bormann and Stumpfegger were knocked to the ground. Bormann, Stumpfegger, and several others eventually crossed the river on their third attempt. Bormann, Stumpfegger, and Axmann walked along the railway tracks to Lerta station, where Axmann decided to leave the others and go in the opposite direction. When he encountered a Red Army patrol, Axmann doubled back. He saw two bodies, which he later identified as Bormann and Stumpfegger, on a bridge near the railway switching yard.